The church at Philadelphia, we are in Revelation chapter 3. I'm going to read it so they can hear it on the old video there. Revelation 3, beginning in verse 7, it says, "And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write the words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you, because you have kept my word about patient endurance. I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to try those who dwell on earth. I am coming soon. Hold fast what you have, so that no one may seize your crown. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it, and I will write on him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. He who has an ear, let him hear to what the Spirit says to the churches." So, the church at Philadelphia, it's a little bit further down from Sardis. It was mainly an agricultural town. So finally we have an area of agriculture. When I lived in Illinois and in Minnesota, we were surrounded by agriculture. Um, when I was a kid, I loved going out to the farm my great-grandfather had. So I kind of like agrarian or agricultural areas, but this is a church that had an agricultural background. They were also known for earthquakes. In fact, the town had been destroyed several times and had just been rebuilt not too long before the writing of this letter. Some scholars believe around 37, 35-ish AD, the town had just been rebuilt. It's named after a king of Pergamum, the name of Attalus Philadelphus. So it's named after him. The word is similar to the Greek word Philadelphia, that last part of his name. So that's kind of where the Philadelphia church comes from, is the name of the town there. So we always look at how Jesus presents himself because it has meaning. It's not just, hey, this is Jesus writing, but he always throws in a little bit extra adjectives there. So here, Jesus identifies himself as holy and true. What's holy and true mean? If someone said, hey, I want you to know that I'm holy and I'm true. Set apart and you're honest? I kind of think personally, you ever heard someone say, well, this is the real McCoy? This is the genuine article, right? I think maybe when you hear that word true, it might have a little ring of that I am truly the one that is in charge of the church. How about the key of David? He presents himself as that, right? Who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one will open. Anybody kind of what's your little study Bible say about the key of David? Anybody have any little notes in there? No. Someone look up Isaiah 22:22 real quick. Okay, that's good. How about Isaiah 22:22? All right. So there is a reference right there to what shows up in the book of Revelation. Huh? Mm-hmm. So also this refers to, or could refer to, there was a guy named Eliakim who had access to David's wealth. And this was for him to be able to do a job. He could go in and take what he wanted. He could shut it down. So this could be referring to Jesus has access to all the treasure trove of heaven. I'm not saying that's exactly it, but I'm saying when we have the key of David mentioned before in Scripture, Eliakim is mentioned, and with having access to all that David had to offer, maybe Jesus is saying, I have access to everything that heaven has to offer, which would include opening the door, whoever wants to take what they can, shutting the door, controlling it. But either way, Jesus is the one that has the key of David. Now, when I was a kid, we went to, my mom taught at Open Door Baptist School, and we went to Open Door Baptist Church. It was in a church, 7th and Washington, just off of downtown Kansas City, Kansas. I think it was an Episcopal church, had all the beautiful big stained windows, with like warriors and angels, and they had these little shields going around the top. I don't know what the shields meant, but they were red and blue shields. I mean, just a beautiful, ornate building. Had like 3 levels, had bats up there, it had a belfry. You could go up to where the bell was. Just an old church. But Open Door Baptist Church, and I remember up on front on one of those, our church board, well, it's on the corner where we keep the Sunday school attendance. You can't see it. We had one of those boards up front, last week's attendance, hymns for the day. That was back when we still had hymnals, right? It had up there this verse in Revelation chapter 3. Behold, I set before you an open door which no man can shut. Well, we were called Open Door Baptist. And I remember, this verse was always in front of me every time we were there for Sunday or for Wednesday night. But he says, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door which no one can shut. I know that you have little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. His commendation to them is that I know your deeds. Again, we see every church, Jesus is not a distant owner. He's not someone like a wealthy guy sitting on high. You know what? I've got all these investments. I pay for people to watch over my investments. I don't even know what's going on. How many of you are fortunate enough to have a retirement plan or have some little bit invested? Now, how many of you sit there and actually watch it and know exactly what you're invested in? I'm not. We got a money manager dude, and you go and you look in and he's like, here's all the stocks we own. And I couldn't look at one of them and tell you what it's doing. I don't care. I care about that big number that comes up when I log in to see, am I going up or am I going down? How broke am I? Right? Are we supersizing tonight? Or are we splitting the meal? And my wife and I, with the way the world's been going on, we're like, well, is it even going to matter? Is Jesus going to come back and we're saving for a retirement we're never going to see? I said, now you're thinking smart. Now you're there. We need a Roush Mustang. We can work at Walmart and say hello when they come in when we get old, right? No, that's not going to. Chris goes, no, you don't want to do. Well, we could be handing out masks. I'm just saying, we could be a greeter. You want to be around people when you're old anyway, so why not just live it? That's not smart. The Bible tells us we need to make plans for our future. But, Jesus says, I know your deeds. I know that you are, that you struggle. He says there, I put an open door. And right here, that open door, notice the context of it. Again, I want to read it to you. I know your works. So what is he talking about right there? If he starts with, I know your works, is he talking about salvation? Why isn't he talking about salvation if he says, I know your works? Thank you. This verse, even though our church always thought it was about salvation when it was up in front, it's not about salvation. It can't be. Ephesians 2:8-9 lays that to rest. Okay? We can't earn this open door can't be about salvation. But he says, I know your works. So he's talking about their service, correct? Okay? Behold, I have set before you an open door which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. So what is he talking about? If it's not about salvation, what is this open door referring to that he set before him? I know, I'm making you think. It's been a long day. Go ahead. I know your works is right there. And we're in the same thought. You ever got in a conversation with your wife and all of a sudden she started talking about something else and you didn't hear it? And she goes, I'm just going to kill them. And you're like, you're going to kill the kids. Or you're going to kill the dog. Because that's what you remember last talking about. Because you missed the context of the conversation. She changed subjects. You understand what I'm saying? So we've got a subject matter here. I know your works. Then we have the open door. And then after the open door, he says, I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Okay. So I know your works. You have little power. You guys are on the right path. At least I believe for this passage. I know your works. You have little power, but I'm putting before you an open door. I am setting before you an open invitation to serve me that no one will stop. No one's going to keep you from serving me. I know you have little power. I know. And then he brings up the very next thing, or the next part there, right? Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet. Do you think maybe in this church of Philadelphia there were those Jews saying, you're not worthy enough to serve God? Are you seeing it now, Sean? How it lays out in the context, how this open door could be a door to service. I'm not saying it can't be applied to salvation. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's not clear. He doesn't say this open door is for you to serve me. I'm just trying to stay in context of this set of verses. Does Jesus set before us an open door to salvation which no one can shut? Absolutely. That's not a false statement. Or, what'd you just say? Commands. What are the commands for? Are the commands for salvation? Or the commands are a reflection of I'm following Jesus. So see, even with what you just said, it points more toward keeping my commands. I am walking in the way that Jesus told me to walk. So that's the door to service. I can't serve Jesus until I'm saved. It's not works. Well, that's why the door is open. Again, back to the key of David. When David gave Eliakim the key to his treasury, he had the power and the authority to be able to do whatever he needed to do to get his mission accomplished. Well, Jesus has the power. What'd you have, Brian? Which says, there you go. There's the reference to the door to work. Huh? Boy, I'd have to have my memory jogged on that one. Or, yeah. Oh, I'm not denying it couldn't be salvation. But remember, we have seen the synagogue of Satan before, right? There was another church that had the same issue with the synagogue of Satan, trying to get them to stop or stray, right? Um, so the synagogue of Satan is pressure from the Jews to get them to stray from the new mission, which Jesus gave them. There's still that pressure. So, the encouragement that, hey, keep doing what you're doing. You may think that you don't have much money and little influence, but I'm the one. This is just how I see it. Jesus is saying, I'm the one that gives you the service. Let no one stop you. You ever attended a church where they told you couldn't do that ministry? You're not qualified? And I'm not talking about deacon or elder. I've been in those churches. Well, they can't serve. Why not? Well, because, no, I don't know. You have to tell me when God said, I want them to be on my team, why they can't do something. Now, at our church and our bylaws, to cover our behinds, we do have some things. If you're going to teach a Sunday school class, you need to be a member. Why? Well, to be a member, you got to take a class. Well, why do I have to take a class? Because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we teach doctrine to our kids and the people in our. It doesn't mean we don't have some variances. That's not it. But we have some basic things that we're about that we want to make sure people who are leaders are going to follow. It's also church discipline. If you're going to be a leader and being a lead teacher, we've had people teach in our classes that aren't members. Okay? It's not that they can't teach, it's that if you're going to be a leader, there needs to be accountability. All throughout this book in the New Testament church, guys, there's accountability. Okay? So we hold to it here. In our church, we have the deacons and the elders. They hold Adam accountable. I don't just get up there and say, here's where we're going. I say, here's where I'd like to go. Here's what I believe. But they're the ones that have got to say, hold it. We can't do that. We can't go there. Trust me. I would love to say, you know what? I know what we need to do on that building. Here's what we're going to do. It'd be so much easier. We'd already be going down the path. Seriously. But that's not the way a church should be run. We should have leaders that God has raised up in this church. They need to start making decisions. And then hopefully soon we're going to have a presentation for the church, and the church is going to decide, here's the path we're going to start down. I believe that's how God wanted the local church to function. If he wanted a monarch, he would have appointed a monarch, right? He would have said, you know what, Paul, I want you to set men or women up to lead these churches, and their word is absolute. We don't see that. We see a plurality of elders. We see a plurality of deacons, okay? We see gifts given to everybody in the church, okay? We also see that Peter talks about we are the royal priesthood. We are the royal priesthood. So I believe it works best when we all get together. In this commendation, there is no rebuke for the church at Philadelphia. He doesn't say, hey, you're doing wrong. You've put up with Jezebel in your midst. You're giving in to the church of Satan. The synagogue of Satan. There is no rebuke for this church. This is one of the ones that seems to be getting it right. Little strength, you've kept my word, but you have not denied. We've talked about that, being faithful. Notice that their enemies will fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. To me, I don't have Bible on this, but this is what I'm seeing. That synagogue of Satan has been saying, you're not worthy, and what can that little church do? And one day, he's going, those people are going to fall at your feet and say, you know what? You were doing what God wanted you to do. That's what I see there. It's not so much a na-na-na boo-boo. It's when we stand before God and give an account, he goes, they're going to stand before me, and they're going to fall at your feet, recognizing you were doing what was right. If we're doing stuff for other people's opinion and happiness, we're not going to do what God wants. I'm just telling you. So he's trying to give them an encouragement there as he commends them. The promise to this church because they endured patiently, right? Verse 10, because you have kept my word about patient endurance, right? They patiently endured. They will keep you from the hour of trial. That's clearly referring into Revelation 6 when we have the seven seals and all of this judgment starts unfolding. Here, you don't have any clearer picture of those of us that believe in the rapture, that there's going to be a rapture that happens. Otherwise, you're going to have something happening that we don't understand, that there are going to be a church being hid and somehow sheltered from all of this stuff, right? We really don't see that. In fact, we see the opposite. The Bible is clear that those who have accepted Christ are going to be, in that second 3.5 years, they're going to be tormented, they're going to be hunted down, they're going to run to the mountains to hide, all of this stuff going on as we get into it. So here is another picture that we believe points to there is a rapture. There is a taking up of the church, that they won't see this. Keep you from that hour of trial. You'll be, and notice he says, taken out, not sustained through. If there was a chance for Jesus to say, you know what, I'm going to leave you here on earth during all this tribulation, he could have said, I will keep you through this tribulation, through these trials. But he says, I'm going to take you out. So that's why those of us that believe in a literal rapture, we believe that the church will be caught up, will be taken out and not see this. The Philadelphia church may be gone, but even today there still are churches holding on who are small in nature, maybe being laughed at, and still are doing the work Jesus gave them to do. There just are. So the average church size, I have not looked it up recently. The average church size used to be around 50 people. You were a little bit over average if you had 80, would be moving into a large church size if you had 80. But
You said you mentioned that he said he was going to take them out. What was
I will keep you from the hour, yes.
trial?
Keep you from.
Okay, sorry. I just was.
That's where we get taking out. I'm going to keep you from it. That's okay. No. Keep you from. Yeah, keep you from. That's where it comes from. So the average church is smaller, no matter what you think about mega churches and movements. A lot of churches think, oh, we're small. We have 80 people. No, you're not small, actually. You're doing pretty darn good. Okay? So there is no limit on what a church can do when they go through the open door that Jesus have gave them to do. The promise to this church, because you endure, I already did that, right? Holding on the bottom part, Jesus is coming soon. His encouragement there is, so hold on, right? I am coming soon, verse 11, hold fast so that no one may seize your crown. This is the first time. Remember before we talked about blotted out of the Lamb's book of life. But notice here, what does he say? It's not about the book of life, is it? It's about the crown. You keep holding on because there's this crown that you are going to get for enduring and holding fast. And I don't want you to lose that gift. I don't want you to lose that reward, if you will. So here it is different than in the previous one. Hey, I don't want you to lose that crown. If you look here, he talks about crown before he talks about the Lamb's book of life. We talked about why would he talk about blotted out. Could be two different situations, I don't know. But he definitely talks about losing a crown here. And he's clearly referring to reward. Notice he also tells them they will be pillars, or like pillars in the temple. In other words, a pillar, those of you that have built houses or lived in houses, if you have a load-bearing wall, you just go in and take out the load-bearing wall. Now, it's a structural thing. Unlike those things that were at front of our church, which were not structural, or those out there in the hallway, which were not structural, he is referring to a structural thing. you will not be taken away from God's presence. You will stay in God's presence forever. Why is that important? Well, I think maybe that church, that synagogue of Satan, was telling them, you may see God, but you won't be able to dwell in his house. So they know that if they endure and hold on, they will be in God's house forever. Also notice this. You will get a new name. Right? And in fact, it has two references, right? I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from God out of heaven. And my own new name. When you had a name and you had a new name bestowed upon you during these times, it would often be a representation of your character or achievement. So, when Jesus says, hey, your name, whatever it may be, you're the Church of Philadelphia, you think you're a small church of 50 or whatever, you got dirt under your fingernails, I'm going to give you a new name on this day. And you're going to have the name of my Father, and you're going to have the name of, in other words, your inheritance, your city, what you belong to is the New Jerusalem. And on top of that, I'm going to give you a new name. We are God's children. We will have a permanent home. And we will rule with Jesus Christ. I believe those are the three elements we see here in these verses, based on what we see in the book of the rest of Revelation as he continues to unveil it to us. But they get a new name. How many of you, some days you wish you had a new name? I'll raise my hand. I have done things in my life. I wish I could, I need to change my name. Right? I want to hide. I want to get away. Hey, one day we will have that new name. We will get that fresh start. Exhortation is the same as it's been almost at the end of every verse, right? He who has an ear, let him hear to what the Spirit says to the churches. We just heard at the beginning of each phrase, Jesus identifies himself talking to the churches. So I'm asking you again, what you ought to know the answer. Why does it say at the end who the Spirit says to the churches? If Jesus is the one talking at the beginning, why does he tell them, listen to what the Spirit has to say at the end? I'm just making you think. I know you know the answer. You're just worried to get. They're one and the same, but they're also three separate. What's the Spirit's job? Guide, comfort, one more. Teach, convict. He's saying, hey, I may be giving you this prophecy, but the Holy Spirit's the one that's going to apply it to your life and it's going to make you think, hey, what's going on? Now, I want you to remember we have a couple left. We have the church at Laodicea. That's actually the last one we have. So in 2 weeks, you might want to be boning up on all these other churches. We're going to write our own little letter. What do you think Jesus would have to say to the church at Keys Baptist Church? And we're going to go through the same thing. How would he identify himself to us? What would our commendation be, or would he have a commendation for us? Would there be a rebuke? I'm sure there'd be a promise. He gives a promise to everyone, right? And I'm sure there'd be an exhortation.